5 years later, I found myself standing face to face with the man I had once called my soulmate. Ethan. The man whose heart I had shattered, whose trust one had betrayed. 5 long, agonizing years had passed since that fateful night when he walked in on me with Michael. My boss, my mistake, my greatest regret. I had relived that moment endlessly. Ethan's silence, the heartbreak in his eyes, the way his hands trembled as he held the takeout bag he had brought for me. He hadn't yelled, hadn't cursed. He had just looked at me like I was a stranger before turning and walking away. The divorce was swift and inevitable. Ethan never spoke a word to me throughout the process, and I didn't deserve anything more. I signed the papers through tears, knowing I had lost not just a husband but the life we had built together over a decade. I left town, unable to bear the weight of my own mistakes or the whispers of our mutual friends. Therapy became my refuge, a place where I confronted the insecurities and fears that had led me down the path of infidelity. It wasn't just about cheating, it was about loneliness, about feeling like I wasn't enough, about seeking validation in the worst possible way. But no amount of self-reflection could undo the damage I had caused. Then, one day, an invitation arrived. I almost didn't open it. But when I saw the name, Sarah, I hesitated. She had been one of Ethan's closest friends, always kind to me. Seeing her name brought back memories of dinners, vacations, laughter, a life that felt like a distant dream. But when I read the location, my heart sank. The wedding was at the same church where Ethan and I had exchanged vows. A part of me wanted to tear the invitation apart and pretend it never arrived. But another part, the part still yearning for closure, made me do the unthinkable. RSVP'd yes. The day of the wedding, I felt like a ghost walking through the past. The church looked the same. The stained glass windows, the soft glow of candles, the scent of old wood and roses. I scanned the crowd, heart pounding, half hoping and half dreading that I'd see him. And then I did. Ethan. Seated near the front, looking effortlessly handsome in a dark suit. His hair had a touch of silver now. His posture as confident as ever. He was speaking to a woman with striking red hair, who laughed as she placed a hand on his arm. My stomach twisted in a knot of jealousy and regret. I tried to slip into a pew unnoticed, but my movement caught his eye. Our gazes locked, and for a moment time stood still. His expression was unreadable. No anger, no warmth. Just quiet acknowledgement. After the ceremony, I lingered near the exit, debating whether to leave before the reception. But fate had other plans. Clara. My breath caught in my throat as I turned. Ethan stood a few feet away, his voice calm, unreadable. Ethan, I whispered. Close, he was even more striking than I remembered. There was a quiet maturity about him, a peace I envied. I didn't expect to see you here, he said. His tone polite but distant. Neither did I admitted. I wasn't sure if it was a good idea. He nodded slowly. It's been a long time. It has, I agreed, the weight of our history settling between us. Do you want to talk? He asked, surprising me. Yeah, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We stepped outside into the cool evening air, away from the music and laughter of the reception. I heard you left town, Ethan began. I did, I said, wrapping my arms around myself. I couldn't stay. Everything reminded me of what I'd done. He nodded, his expression unreadable. And Michael. It ended shortly after, I admitted. It was never real, Ethan. It was a mistake. A horrible, selfish mistake. His jaw tightened, and for a moment I thought he might walk away. But instead he spoke. I spent years trying to figure out what I did wrong, he said, voice low. Kept asking myself if I wasn't enough for you. If I could have done something differently. Tears welled in my eyes. It wasn't you, Ethan. It was me. I was scared, insecure. I let my fears ruin everything. You were more than enough. I was just too blind to see it. He studied me for a long moment. His eyes filled with sadness and something else. Acceptance. I've moved on, Clara, he said finally. It wasn't easy, but I had to. You can't live in the past forever. Are you happy? I asked hesitantly. I am, he said. I'm seeing someone. She's great, kind, honest. Everything I need. The words stung, but I forced myself to smile. I'm glad, Ethan. You deserve that. And you, he asked. Have you found peace? I'm trying, I admitted. I've spent the last 5 years trying to understand myself, to forgive myself. It's a work in progress. We stood there in silence, the sounds of the wedding fading into the background. I'm glad we talked, Ethan said finally. I think I needed this. Me too, I said softly. I'm so sorry for everything. I hope you know that. He gave me a small smile. Do. And I hope you find happiness, Clara. You deserve that too. With that, he turned and walked back inside, back to the life he had built without me. As I watched him go, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Closure. I had lost Ethan because of my own mistakes, but in that moment I realized that forgiveness, both his and my own, was the first step toward healing. And for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could finally start to move forward.